a lot of things have changed in Washington and specifically with the Commanders. And I know you have been on it from the get-go on all of it. Just your first reaction. I know you've talked about it, but you being at the preseason and talking and seeing the atmosphere in that Ravens game, and they broke the streak. I know streaks that not everyone cares too much about, but
yeah, I mean, it was a fun game, and obviously the Washington-Baltimore rivalry, it's a little bit there. The people from Baltimore don't really care from DC. DC don't really care about the people from Baltimore, especially the Nationals and the Orioles when it comes to that Masson dispute that's going on. I'm just waiting for the Orioles to clinch against the Nationals in the next couple of days, because that'll just add a little more spice to everything. But I digress. In terms of the Commanders and this Washington NFL franchise, they're never boring, guys. I'll just put it that way. There's always something to talk about. But it's a new energy, a new era with Josh Harris taking over as owner. Dan Snyder is gone. Fans are starting to come back into the stadium and support this team. It helps that they've gotten off to a fairly good start. It was a clunker against the Bills, but the Bills are arguably one of the top teams in the NFL. But it's good to kind of talk about positive stuff again, because there's always been this dark cloud looming over this franchise, whether it's the off-field transgressions and the poor play on the field. So there's hope and belief that this franchise is once again heading in the right direction, because this used to be the gold standard franchise. Look at all the Super Bowls and the big moments at those RFK days, and Joe Gibbs is the head coach, and the Hogs and the offensive line. Those days went long gone during the Dan Snyder era, and they're hoping to rekindle that over the coming years here with Josh Harris in charge.
Sam Howell's coming in, has a lot of promise. The first 2 weeks were really great. I thought that the Commanders looked pretty solid. And then, the Bills figure out that they're still the Bills. Obviously, it was a tough game for Sam. He threw four interceptions. And now they have the Eagles that they have to contend with as well next week. It's going to be a bit of a tough stretch for them. But how do you feel about the Commanders so far this year, even though, it was a really, really hard loss yesterday?
Yeah, they're trying to figure out if Sam Howell is going to be the guy. It's his second year in the NFL. He just came off his fourth career NFL start, and I think there's more tape on Sam, and the blueprint is starting to come out on how to disguise, defenses against him and put pressure on him. The Washington offensive line is not great. Guys, he's been sacked 19 times in 3 games. That's the most in the NFL right now. Against the Bills, he was sacked 9 times. You can't win too many games, especially turning the football over. As you mentioned, he had 4 interceptions, and he's partnered and teamed up with new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, coming over from Kansas City, where he had a lot of success with the Chiefs. Obviously, he had Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Washington, they don't have those two type of players. So it's interesting to see how Eric Bieniemy evolves as a play caller, not having a Mahomes and Kelce. The jury's still out. It's still very early in the process in terms of how this duo is going to work. Early returns, a mixed bag, because the Bills game was awful. Denver and Arizona were pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds and bounces back from a very poor start against the Bills. You mentioned they got a big game on Sunday, an NFC East showdown with the Philadelphia Eagles. So wait and see approach. And I think the fact that the new ownership, there's a little bit more leeway and a little bit more leash, because they want to evaluate everything. So I think Sam Howell is going to get every opportunity to see where he's at and grow and develop.
Hey, Scott, all eyes are obviously on the quarterback with any team. Like that's what everyone is going to hyper focus on, because the quarterback of the offense, the quarterback of the team, like that is a big name, and that is Sam Howell. But a guy I wanted to ask you about, a guy I covered at Alabama, Brian Robinson, his story is incredible, man. Yeah. Doing what he did at Alabama behind Najee Harris, behind Damian Harris, and to wait his turn, it was so cool to see. And then to get to the NFL, go to the Commanders, and then everything that happened last year, and now he's back on the field and just grinding it out. How high is this guy's motor, and what is his ceiling in the NFL? Because I really like his game a lot, and I think they can really rely heavily on the ground game with Brian Robinson as well, with how good and how talented he is and how hard he works each and every day. You see it firsthand.
good kid, genuine kid. Enjoy talking to him in the locker room. And if your listeners and viewers don't know the backstory, he was shot last year during an attempted robbery in D.C., minding his own business, carjacked, and he was shot in the leg after a very strong training camp. Missed some time, came back, and still played very well for the Commanders. And I love his running style. He's physical. He's aggressive, running between the tackles. I think they don't give him the ball enough. I think I would love for them to stick to the run game a little bit more. He was averaging 7 yards a pop against the Buffalo Bills, and they just kind of let the game get away and got pass happy. He has the body and the makeup of a NFL running back. Now, we know NFL running backs, their shelf life not too long, but you know what? He's got all the tools, and he's a good kid, and he wants to compete, and he wants to make it at this level. So it's been great to see him, get past what happened last year. Because my goodness, I can't imagine. There's the physical part of that, right? But then the mental part of that of recovering from that, and he's in a good space right now.
I think just to kind of wrap this in, that's got out of curiosity, we talked about, there's excitement right now sitting at 2-1, and you don't know what's going to happen. The NFL is a crazy environment. I'm not saying for the Commanders to be a contending team at the moment. Playoff team definitely seems possible. They're 2-1. What's a realistic expectation for them? Which is already, as we've talked about, an extremely competitive NFC East.
A couple of ways to take that question, because how do you determine success for a franchise that has struggled year after year? Off the field, I think you determine success if this fan base remains engaged, if this fan base still supports this team and have sellouts at the home games, because there's been a lot of empty seats the last couple of years, and the first 2 home games have been sellouts. Granted, there was a lot of Bills fans, but still it's nice to see a packed house again at FedEx Field. So I think off the field success, is this fan base still re-energized? When is this honeymoon period going to end? Let's see how long this continues of the fan base really supporting this franchise. In terms of the on-the-field product, I had the Commanders at about 8-9 before the season. I thought they would just miss the playoffs. They would have some growing pains. Sam Howell would have some growing pains. At the midseason point, if they're around the 500 mark, I think they got a shot to make the playoffs. As you know, in the NFC East, it's a war. It's a battle every game. Dallas is very good. Philly's very good. Don't underestimate the Giants. They got a really tough late season schedule. I believe they play San Francisco and Miami. Miami, they look like out of this world right now. So if they're around the 500 mark come, I'd say mid-November, they have a chance. Remember, they have a Thanksgiving Day game at Dallas as well. So the schedule gets tougher. I think Sam Howell's going to have his struggles and his ups and downs in the roller coaster, but that's just part of the process of being a second-year quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah, let's not forget the Cowboys look a little bit easier to beat after this week than they did the 2 weeks before. So that's not a guaranteed loss either there. So love this. Ryan, anything else you got for Scott?
No, you know what? I'm going to bother Scott a lot more off air and in person moving forward. But Scott, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time tonight to talk. Hopefully for Baltimore fans, they get to celebrate things with the Orioles, but hopefully for everyone in the region, hey, Commanders, Ravens, they're not rivals. I know people might say it, maybe they are, but we're pulling for the same squads. So
yes, and I hope to see you guys in a couple of weeks at Camden Yards, because I will be there tag team with Rocco, because I just like to ride his coattails with his Orioles bandwagon, because I'm not missing an Orioles home playoff game. I'm sorry, Rocco. I'll be live next to you.
I'll be riding your coattails. I'll see you there, my man.
I love the Orioles. Love the Orioles.
Sir. Well, hey, Scott, we appreciate you. You have a great rest of your night. We'll talk soon.
See you, Scott.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks, fellas.